Welcome back to the Soul Sisters podcast. First and foremost, hi, it's Emily. I apologize for the way that I sound. I have a cold right now. It's not pretty, but we have very important things to discuss today, so I was not willing to miss this recording with the lovely Alyssa. Before we dive in today, we want to take a moment to address some of the negativity that has come across our social media platforms. First and foremost, let's be so for real. We will not be engaging with back and forth through comments, direct messages, whatever. If you engage in that kind of behavior, you will lose your privilege and immediately be blocked. So instead, I'm going to address everyone right here, very clearly, very confident, so that we're all on the same page. If advocating for the rights of all human beings, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, background, etc., makes you uncomfortable, this is not the space for you, and you have the freedom to simply not tune in. We recognize that being a public platform means that we'll encounter all kinds of perspectives, but let's be exceedingly clear. This space is built on inclusivity, respect, and open-minded conversation. And if you're unwilling to listen, learn, or engage with perspectives beyond your own, you are 100% part of the problem and you're dismissed. So, to all who are tuning into this episode, consider this your heads up. Today's episode, we will discuss race, gender, identity, and human rights. And we stand firmly in support of all people. And if you have an issue with that, we invite you to stay, maybe gain some perspective. But if you are only staying to fuel your own hatred, get out. The expectation of our community is to tune in with open hearts and minds. And even if we may disagree in some areas, we still respect one another. If you're incapable of that, go listen to something else. We don't want you here. So, to everyone else in our community of open hearts and open minds, let's get into it.
Thanks, Em.
You bet.
I just want to say that my perspective is similar. And if you're still here listening after Emily's true to fashion call out, then take a moment to hear me out if you choose as well. I also think it's really important to not tune out to other people's opinions and beliefs, even if they make us uncomfortable, even if we know we're not going to really change in that particular area, in this instant, human rights. I do think it's okay, though, to disagree. I think it's important to be open to others' opinions. Therefore, like Emily said, if you do disagree and are still here, please try to be open to valuable perspectives. Not one perspective is better than another. And if that makes you feel funny as I say it, you're absolutely part of the problem in the United States right now. You're part of why the United States isn't feeling so united anymore. And I hope that changes. I hope that you can change. And reach out, ask questions. But yeah, the hate is not going to be welcomed anywhere where anyone could see it and feel hurt from it. I don't want to turn anyone away, but this space is completely safe for all. And if anything you post as a keyboard warrior is negative, it will be deleted. This isn't because we don't like you. It's because it is extremely painful to see hurtful, hateful, and overall harmful comments as a human with really any amount of, in my opinion, empathy in their hearts for general people, for minorities really of any kind. So you probably suck. If you listen because you know one of us, or you listen because you find comfort here, that's wonderful. Take what you want and leave what you don't. I struggle to understand how someone with so much hate in their hearts really can even live from day to day. I see what's going on in the world. And if you voted yes for any of this, I have a lot of confusion still and hurt in my heart. But at the end of the day, I still have empathy for you and the fear that you must have. And, we're still here, but you can't be outwardly hateful to other people here. So if you're still here, hello, we welcome in your love and your curiosity and your questions and really anything except for hate. So take it away, Em. Let's do it.
No hate, friends. Thanks, Liz. I wanna go back into to start today's podcast. I want to go back into something that Alyssa just said, which is talking about like that behavior that's following the hatred, right? Um, Different perspectives are important. They're super important. I'm not going to agree with everyone. In fact, I believe most people that know me know that I hardly agree with anyone ever. But the way that you behave in reaction to those different perspectives is what makes a difference. You can disagree and not be so excessively hateful to the point where you have to harm, disrespect, etc. to other people. And I think that the thing that I'm struggling the most with right now is sure, there's a lot of fear mongering going on, both sides of political parties, so on and so forth. I don't disagree with any of that. But here's the problem with it. What I am observing, not just on the internet or on the news, but in my day to day life, is that the behavior that we display based off of our perceptions or our opinions or our feelings is very, very different when the person who is leading us is allowing and enabling such hatred. For instance, racism has always existed. Homophobia has always existed. People who are deep into their religion and base their values off of that have always existed. And some of this hatred that we are seeing absolutely has always existed as well. Sometimes people just don't know how to respect others. But it is tenfold now because the person who is leading the country is leading with a behavior that other people are watching and therefore reciprocating and repeating. And it's the biggest issue that I'm facing right now, within my own community, within the communities that I'm observing. And it hurts my heart because there is a way to be different and agree upon different things and not be so hateful.
Yeah, I think that, there's like really a lot of harm in generalizations, and this like black and white thinking is really not helpful to anyone. And so, it goes back to this open-mindedness, that gray area of like, okay, what are the exceptions? What are the silver linings? Yeah, just I'm feeling it. I'm following.
And the black and white thinking is such a great analogy because Alyssa and I are not politicians. We're not going to get on the podcast and tell you, how you should vote and what you should do. And, we're not experts any more than any other average American, but we do attempt to educate ourselves on all views. And even though I disagree with some views, I do not set out specifically to be hurtful, harmful, or explicit in the way that I approach people that have views that are different than mine. There are people in my own family with views that are different than mine, people that are so close to me that it hurts that their views are different than mine. And I still have to find space in my heart to love them, to empathize with them, to understand why their perspective is that way. Because if I carry around that hatred, if I carry around that stress, selfishly, it only hurts me, which goes back to a podcast that we did a few episodes ago where energetically, if you care nothing about anyone else, and this is solely about you, energetically, you are destroying yourself. I have a cold right now as a result. I don't even know if it's cold. I'm sick right now as a result of the amount of stress that I have been carrying. My body simply could not function anymore. This is a direct result of the amount of stress that I've been carrying. Think about that the next time you want to spew something nasty out of your mouth, please.
Yeah. Yep. I think we have the privilege to monitor what we want to look at and listen to. We have the privilege to speak out, especially here on our podcast. There's kind of a little bit of a feels like a little bit of a duty. And I know kind of showing up today, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I want to do this podcast today. I'm not an expert. I don't know everything that's going on. I didn't want to like leave out something because there's just so much going on right now. You know, it's been a couple weeks of this, and I think the point is for us to be overloaded and overwhelmed and overstimulated and not know what is real and what is actually going to be able to happen or not. And it's not my job right now to list all of the different executive orders that have come out. If you're reading the news, then you might be aware of some of those things. So if we leave out something or if I don't touch upon something, you know, it was really thoughtful. And again, like I'm not an expert in what's going on in the government, but I am an expert of like my own human being and how I can exist and treat other people. And if you're listening this, so are you. And it is your responsibility and your duty to be good to yourself and be good to others. If you are a religious person, I'm pretty sure that's the golden rule. So take care of yourself in whatever way that you can. And thanks for listening to our non-expert expert advice.
Or not an expert. And honestly, just not even advice, but more so the things that we are experiencing. We wanted to do this podcast today and have this conversation with you guys because we are struggling. It is so overstimulated. I'm so overstimulated. I just inverted that. You know what I meant. It's hard to function, and it's to the point where like I see things happening at my job. I see things happening in my family. I see things happening to my friends. And it feels helpless. It feels like I don't have a leg to stand on, and there is nowhere for me to go. And personally, I'm a person, and Alyssa knows this, where if someone I love is in trouble or they're hurting or they just had a bad day, like I want to fix it. I want to help you. I want to be there for you. And I feel like I still am, but I'm struggling the most with the fact that like I don't know what to do. Like there's only so many support groups and Instagram posts and this and that you can stand on. And it is so hard to have these conversations with people, especially when they disagree with you, because I'm just functioning on the basis of let's treat humans like they are humans. And, you know, like Alyssa said, it's your responsibility to self-manage. Literally, in any job that you work. See, this is going to be, okay, this is going to be one of the things that I bring in from my professional life. In a performance review, one of the competencies in any corporate job that you work, or non-corporate sometimes, is going to be self-management. It's something you have to do to keep a job. So it should be something you have to do to keep yourself and the people around you healthy, happy, functioning, respected.
Yeah, I guess this is maybe so we're going to talk about like, you know, maybe how this is affecting us personally and give you some skills or things that you might try to help with your own self-management and regulation. And maybe we'll try to talk about like some resources, and I would love more resources and support too. But one of my specialties, aside from being an LGBTQIA plus therapist, I'm licensed now too, yay, the day after the inauguration. So I'm feeling a pretty strong calling to do the right things. But I'm a DBT therapist, which is dialectical behavioral therapy. And dialectic is like, there's two opposing viewpoints, and we have to hold space for both of those. So this fucking sucks, and I still need to survive today. So how do I find skills to get me through whatever it is I'm going through? And there are different tenets of DBT, but one of them is straight up called crisis survival skills. So if you are in a crisis, which I think that Emily and I have pretty high distress tolerance, so being able to tolerate stressful situations. But we also have a privilege. Like if ICE is coming around, literally, like people are getting rounded up. It's fucking wild out here. So some of the crisis survival skills, and maybe you're just feeling in crisis because you have empathy for people who are like in crisis right now as I'm speaking. There is a skill called STOP. These are all acronyms. So STOP means stop, take a step back, observe, proceed mindfully. So even as I was listening to Emily talk and myself talk, I could feel in my body that like vibration of like, whoo, I'm stressed. Like I'm like, I'm like putting my shoulders up to my ears. Like I'm just tensing up. I think a really powerful skill that I actually used this morning, and I haven't done it in a while and I needed it. It's called a TIP skill. So the T stands for temperature. The I stands for intense exercise. The P's stand for paced breathing and paired muscle relaxation. So Emily and I have multiple meditations now for paced breathing and paired muscle relaxation if you go back into our old podcast. But temperature means like, and this is what I did this morning. I showered, took a nice warm shower because I have that privilege. And then at the very end, I turned on the cold and it stimulated my vagus nerve. It made me pace my breathing, because when something is cold on your body like that, you start having to like get yourself together. So those are just a few little things that might help. Maybe it doesn't, but it's worth a shot. So yeah. I went on a little bit of a journey there.
I loved your journey. I want to hear your journeys verbally at all times. Verbal journal, as we say. But side note to your cold water comment for the hair care girlies, it's actually better to rinse your hair in cold water when you're in the shower. So not only can you stimulate yourself in the way that Alyssa is talking about, but also you can grow your hair. 10 out of 10. Multifunctional tool. 10 out of 10 multifunctional tool. But bringing it back, Liz, you were talking about what you focus on in your therapy sessions, and so I'm interested, if you can, and if you can't, that's okay. Like, what are the trends that you're seeing with your clients right now, and how is it affecting them, most importantly, but also like how is carrying that as someone who cares for them affecting you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would say most of my clients are trans or have friends who are trans people, and we stand with you. And I am trying to start a support group, a free support group. You can be anywhere in the United States and join in. I think there's lack of like actual resources that's consistent for people. But back to your question. I think the theme is fear, right? The theme is fear. The theme is, what do I do? I need help. I need direction. I don't think you can give it to me. What do I do? So I'm trying to give some skills, just because, sometimes all we can control is ourselves in that moment. I think the thing that will bring us all together, maybe not all together, but our community is having our smaller community, maybe our online community, grassroots organizations. A lot of people want tips on how to self-soothe, and that doesn't feel like enough right now. I think a lot of people want tangible actions or things that they can do to help someone else or to improve the moment or improve the situation. So yeah, I'm just trying to hold space, and I think I'm getting a lot better at it. I think that I might be slightly numb to the experience, and I also recognize that's a privilege and it sucks. And I think I'm still kind of like, I'm not gonna say starstruck, but like I'm struck. I'm like, what is going on? So maybe I think we're gonna do another podcast in like 2 weeks. Maybe we'll have some more, thought. But right now I'm just kind of like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What about you, Em?
Dude, me too. I'm just in this ever never ending ever long cycle of what the fuck, because here's the thing. I can't imagine it. I try to always put myself in the perspective of other people, right? Because that's how, first of all, it's something I learned in anger management, helps me see multiple sides of a situation. And number two, it is something that helps me understand the person that I am talking to. So I am struggling right now because that is something that I do. And sometimes I do it really slowly. Sometimes I do it very quickly in my head, depending on like where the conversation is headed. I'm struggling to see the perspective of the hatred. All the other shit, there's some things I don't agree with. There's some things that could end up okay. There's some things that are, just a bang of information to cause a diversion or to cause a reaction. And that shit is terrifying, concerning, but not affecting me as much as I can't see the other perspective. I don't understand how someone could be so hateful to people they don't even know. Like, I have never in my life felt uncomfortable or targeted or unsafe because someone was gay, because someone was Black, because like that's not the reason I've ever felt those things. If I go back and look at all the trauma I've been through in my life, it was like, okay, well, this person wasn't nice to me and, they did this, and this. Not, oh, well, this person was Hispanic, and so therefore all Hispanics are horrible.
Yeah.
Right? Right. Like, I'm struggling the most with that perspective. Because I can't, it is just not in my chemical makeup to see it. I just can't.
Yeah.
And it's even more of a struggle for me because, like I said earlier, there are people in my life who have different views than I do, and I love them so much. But every time I pick up the phone to hear a comment shouted in the background of that conversation to like make a dig at me about how my political party didn't win, shut the fuck up. Are you kidding me? Like, this is not about who won. This is about people being okay. This is about how are we all going to live moving forward. So I think like that experience is really hard for me. I think the other thing that is hard that I just I have so much empathy for is these people in these minorities. Like, I'm struggling with it, so I can't even imagine being them. And one of my best friends in the whole world is trans, and he's the most amazing person I've ever met. And like, can't wait to watch my my wedding video with you, Liz, because he's the highlight of the entire wedding. There is not a shot on that dance floor that he's not in, just exuding so much joy. He's such a good person. And all I think about all the time is when he walks out of his front door, is he going to be okay? Because outside of whatever laws, resources, or whatever are being taken away, it goes back to what I said at the beginning of the podcast, which is the behavior that follows what is being verbally and physically exuded from the leader of our country. It enables the behavior that we are seeing. And even if it wasn't affected by a law or whatever, that hatred grows, and you wonder if the person that walks out their front door is going to interact with someone who is not okay with their existence. And it's scary. And it scares me.
What you said made me think a lot. And I think, to me, it comes down to, right now, at least, comfort versus discomfort. And if you're comfortable with yourself, then you're probably not uncomfortable having uncomfortable conversations, aka DEI. If you are uncomfortable, and you are having to see things that make you feel uncomfortable, then what do you want to do? You want to get rid of all those things. You just want them to stop to exist because you don't want to have to look at it. And if you have a lot of wealth, then you get to determine what is comfortable and what's uncomfortable. And yeah, that's kind of just like what that brought up for me. And DEI is cut from my job.
Which is insane because you are a fucking therapist. That's
Yeah.
an insane statement. Do you understand that?
But I had the privilege of going to a DEI conference last year, and wow, like the thoughtfulness and the willingness to be uncomfortable and ask questions and just like have conversations was really empowering and inspiring. And some people were uncomfortable, but like we're able to be like, oh, I did that wrong, or like I said that wrong, and I want to learn and I want to be open to learn. And to me, diversity, equity, and inclusion is really fucking important. And if it makes you uncomfortable, then like check yourself, because I don't know. I just think that, Emily, what you said is like, you know, that comfort versus discomfort and
fear.
and yeah, and there's a lot of fear and maybe the unknown, but instead of like trying to get to know it, which is to me DEI, or understand it, instead we just want to like erase it. And you can't just erase people. I mean, it's been done or attempted, and you know, look where that was in the 40s.
They're still here though. Like Jewish people didn't cease to exist. I'm just saying.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, you know, good will prevail. And I think a lot of people who chose not to vote for anyone or not to vote for Kamala did so with maybe good intentions of like, oh, it needs to get better before it needs to get worse before it gets better, or like, oh, we'll prove to everyone like how shit of a choice either was. But it's kind of like, look where we are now, and we had the privilege to make those choices, and it's really affecting a lot of people, pretty much everyone. Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of where I was going to go next, where it's like, if you think that this doesn't affect you and it only affects these minorities, I have a couple of things to say. First of all, say goodbye to your holidays, such as President's Day. You don't get to have that off anymore. Guess why? That's DEI, brother. So is Juneteenth, which, by the way, is insane that, like, it took forever for that to be a thing. We all reap the benefits of that day. Whether you believe in what that day represents or not, which is also a fucking insane statement to make, you still get the day off. Shut up. Just shut the fuck up. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, you think these things don't affect you because you're not part of that culture, but there's so much more than the baseline of the minorities that you have such hate for that's going to affect you. I think about, I come from a family who, you know, we've had struggles in life, certainly growing up, but like right now as it stands, financially, most of us do not struggle and or have someone that supports us so that we do not struggle because we are so close-knit. We are a white family in America that doesn't have a lot of struggle at this point in time. DEI will still affect my family. My brother is deaf. My cousin has, you know, multiple handicaps. I have people in my family that are gay. I have people in my family, you know, so on and so forth. And to be so narrow-minded to think that like, well, that makes me uncomfortable, so I don't want to do it anymore, so take it away. You're exuding your selfishness and your privilege, and you don't even realize that you're digging your own grave.
Yeah. And if you're not like following with like maybe how it will affect someone in particular, it's like handicap entries to buildings, that's DEI. You know, protection for a handicap, that's DEI. Emily and I were talking about this earlier. Like medical leave or like what's the name?
Maternity leave.
Thank you. DEI. So, there may be more that kind of snowballs from, some of these removal
Also,
of important things.
a new movement that is DEI, which is also an insane thing to say out loud. The one thing that women get that hardly is even paid at this point is maternity leave. Paternity leave is not a common thing. It just started to become a thing where the father also gets time off when their child is born. That is DEI. So if you're planning on having a child in the next 4 years, I would strongly consider the fact that you may, if you are a male, not get to have that little sliver of time to connect with your family. You will be expected to go immediately back to work while your wife sits at home, or your partner or whomever it is sits at home and does it themselves.
Or you're, forced to pay someone to watch your kids and you don't get to take off. And this is, please don't think that this is fear mongering. Obviously, check the facts. That's a DBT skill. Check with your organization. We just got a post kind of being like, reach out about your maternity leave and we'll decide kind of like case by case. It was my interpretation of it. So it seems like things are already kind of moving and changing. And again, this is not fear mongering. This is like personal experiences or observances. So yeah, just kind of do your research, I think, as with everything.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I'm really I'm seeing a huge shift in, there's multiple reasons as to why, but there's a huge shift in the culture at my job right now. There's a lot of sensitivity about what language we can use and, what will be viewed as this or that, and how we can use our words without I don't know how to say this the right way, how we can use our words without creating conflict, which is really hard to do when you don't have DEI policies in place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there is a skill called improve the moment when you're in a crisis situation. You can use imagery, which again, we have podcasts for that. Finding meaning in things, that's the M, improve. P, prayer, if you want to find someone or something to pray to. Relaxation is R, finding ways to relax and just like allow your mind to take a break. Focus on one thing in the moment, be really mindful on how you maybe eat or, look at a candle burning and smell it and like really kind of take it in. Vacation, even if it's just like, I'm going to take an evening and like go do a date with myself. You don't have to fully go on a vacation. And then like self-encouragement and positive mantras, maybe journaling and trying to like say positive things within your journal. Those are ways you can improve the moment if, you are kind of feeling like you're in a bit of a crisis, which I think throughout the past few weeks, like I've definitely felt that every now and then when I am present with the reality that I'm understanding.
Something that Alyssa is so good at is bringing us back down to ground level. As you can see, there is work to be done, no matter who you are as a person. That includes both of us.
I think it's just like really I don't want to say there's not anything we can do about stuff because that is not the case. Like we are organizing, we're mobilizing, but it's like I am full of rage.
Yeah.
So that's not really like helping me too much.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna maybe like join a boxing class or like start just punching shit or running. But like my raging is not really like helping the scenario too much, at least right now, I guess.
That's exactly where I'm going with it though, where it's like say until I'm blue in the face, like the stress and the hatred, it only affects you. And then in the next sentence, I'm yelling because I'm so frustrated and so afraid and so hurt. And it's just a reminder that like just because we're on this podcast and we're talking about these things, you can already hear it in the way that the conversation shifts, that like no one is perfect and we all have to check ourselves. And you should feel even more inclined to check yourself before you wreck yourself. Literally. Right now is the most important time that you can show up for you and for the people that you love, and also for the people that you don't love. Show up for people, period. But if you have to do one thing after this podcast, one takeaway, I would say show up for yourself. What are you doing to manage your stress? Sincerely, like message us on Instagram or on Spotify. We want to know, what are you doing to manage your stress? What are you doing to help the feeling of helplessness? What are you doing to get past the overstimulation, to get past the fear mongering? What are you doing to make sure that the people that you do love or the people that you do support feel like they have your support, but you're not overstepping a boundary? What does that look like? Where are the resources? Because I can tell you, as someone who's very passionate about these things, I'm running out of places to go. And so I think the importance of this community that we are cultivating right here is to have conversations like this. And again, even if you don't agree with some of the things that Alyssa and I are saying, it is important to have resources from all perspectives. That is something that I actively do, so that when I do have an opinion, it is an educated opinion. I'm not just reading cited articles about the things that I agree with. I'm also going to read about the things or the people that I disagree with, because there are nuggets of knowledge there that either support your point of view or possibly could make you rethink the way that you approach something. So you can't continue only seeing with tunnel vision. I think a great example of this is I had someone say to me recently, like, "Oh, is that you supporting a Republican?" And my response was, "No, it has nothing to do with the person that in their political affiliation. I don't care that they're a Republican. I care about what they're talking about." And the subject that they were talking about was how the food in our country is basically poison, which has directly affected my personal health within the last year. So yeah, I agree with that viewpoint 100%. I don't give a fuck that it was a Republican. I'm going to read and educate myself about what they're trying to do about it.
Yeah. So it's like, what are you doing for others? What are you doing for yourself? What are you not doing, maybe? And maybe you think about this to yourself. Maybe you do reach out and let us know, what can you do? What do you want to do more of? What's your war cry song? I'd love to hear those. Like, what's like pumping you up or just making you feel like understood or better? Yeah, I'm curious. Like, what's the silver linings you've found in this scenario? I can answer a few of those. Like, a silver lining I've found is that I am on social media less. It was before like an intended thing, and I was struggling with, managing my time on it. And now, honestly, like, I look for so long, and then my brain's kind of just like, I can't be on here anymore, and so I'm just spending less time. So that's a little bit of a silver lining. And again, I know that there's privilege behind that. What am I doing for my mental health? Reaching out to my friends. Like, I, even before this podcast, just like looking at Emily and talking with her is really helpful. And so just like seeing your friends face to face, even if it's not touch to touch and you can't hug them, just like reaching out to your people. A lot of my clients were like, no one really reached out to me after all those executive orders happened. And like, I feel afraid and alone now. Like, I just wish more people would have reached out. So it's like, take that, and do better. And so I reached out to some of my coworkers and was just like, hey, I'm just thinking about you. And I know it sucks right now. And like, if you ever want to talk or anything, like I'm here, even if it's someone who maybe you're not like besties with or something, but if someone is crossing your mind right now, even for a second, like reach out to them and just like touch base. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to offer anything. Just say hi.
There's,
What are you doing?
well, there's so much power in community. I agree with that. Like, and I think that I am very lucky that I grew up in a household where it was like, if I got bullied at school, if my boyfriend sucked, if I got dumped, if I had a fight with a friend, it didn't really matter because when I came home, like all my best friends are related to me. Like, other than Alyssa, who is basically related to me at this point, they're my cousins, they're my siblings, they're my aunts, my uncle. There's so much power in community. And when you're feeling powerless, I think it's like Alyssa said, if you're thinking about someone, there is an energetic reason why you are thinking about them. That's intuition. That's something outside of your ego, outside of the physical world that is telling you like, oh, maybe I wonder why I'm thinking about them. You should think about that because there's a reason we have dreams. There's a reason that people randomly come into our minds. And even if it's not something or someone that you want to get in deep with, you have no idea what impact you can make with just saying like, hey, I love you. I think that something that I really like to do is I like to write letters to people that I love. Just doesn't even have to be a letter. I
I got your letter.
Oh, so, yeah, I just wrote Alyssa a letter.
Wait, did you get mine?
Not yet, no.
You wrote me like just a I love you kind of letter. And I
Yeah.
also sent you one probably on like the same day because I was like, it was like almost kind of like a sympathy card, just like kind of being silly. Like, oh, sorry about the world right now. And then I got the letter from you today and was like, oh my God, we're in that intuition.
Sometimes you just know that people need it. And they're, I sent one to Alyssa, but like there is no real reason. Sometimes I just get these itches where I'm like, my friends need to know that someone loves them. And I'll send them a letter or a card or something stupid in the mail because mail is fun to open and there's not a lot of things to look forward to right now. And you need 30 seconds of enlightenment. So I think the thing that I lean on the most right now is community. I think that especially for women, there is this, you can have a friend for everything, right? You can have your whole friend group and everybody gets along and everybody, loves everybody and you do the thing and you're uplifting. But for me, like, I know that I have friends for that who are my all the time friends, which is all my people. And then there's also friends that I have where I'm like, okay, so this is the person I call when I fuck up real bad and I need a reality check. And this is the person I call when I'm the most afraid. And this is the person I call when I'm having a panic attack. And this is the person I call when I think I'm dying, but I'm really not. I need a medical professional and somebody in a white coat to tell me that I'm stupid. Like, you have different friends for different reasons, especially as women. And I think that right now, using that resource as a source of support is so important. Like, your friends and your family and your people, they love you unconditionally. So if you saw something on the news, you saw something on social media, you saw something happen in your day that was so painful for you to experience, call your person, call your people. If you don't have one, send us a message on Instagram. We will be your people. I just think community is like the biggest form of support that anyone can have right now. And I implore you to join communities that maybe you want to support and be a part of, but you're not yet, So yeah, that's my biggest thing that I'm doing right now.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people get kind of stuck in, I think when people get pretty depressed, it's really hard to reach out. It really is uncomfortable to answer the phone. It is hard to text back. And so if someone didn't reach out to you, maybe they're struggling. Maybe you can try to muster up the ability to reach out, and maybe you don't, and that's okay. Maybe you find another community to jump into for a minute if it's like hard to be in your community, if your family does not see eye to eye with you and it's really hard to like engage with your struggles and tell them about your struggles. Go volunteer for a cause you believe in. I have a community at the animal shelter that I go to. I don't really talk to the people too much. We wave and smile at each other, but it's a community for me still. I go there and I pet the dogs and I walk the dogs, and that's still my community because we have something in common. So, find one sliver that you have in common with someone and like, I don't know, explore that. Because not everyone has a big, beautiful Italian family like Emily's, and that's okay. If you want to ask her questions about how she's like gotten to that beautiful, healthy set of relationships that she has, like, please do so. I have families that I communicate with, and I have a lot of other communities that I have to seek out for my own well-being. So yeah, I don't know how we want to end it. I kind of have an idea I'm not going to like offer a meditation, like give it to you because I think it's kind of like a heated kind of conversation, but this meditation came to my mind. And if you want a little homework or if you want to try this, it can be hard. But it's called loving kindness meditation. Before
you get into it, I'm sorry.
I wasn't going to get into it. I was just going to explain it. So go ahead.
Okay, before you explain it, I just want to say one more thing about something that you can do for yourself. And Alyssa touched on it a little bit earlier, but right now, you have the privilege to have boundaries. I just want to remind you of that. You have the privilege to hang up the phone, to close the social media app, to not engage in conversations that are too much for you at the time. You can come back and revisit them. It's not encouragement to isolate perspectives because, as we've said before, it's important to have, knowledge is power, period. But you have the ability to stop the hatred. You have the ability to not click on the video. You have the ability to put your hand up and say no to the person that is encouraging a conflicting conversation that isn't going anywhere productive, but mostly is just an opportunity for them to get a hit in. And so before we go into our meditation, I just wanted to remind you that another really powerful tool that you have and you have the privilege to use is setting those boundaries, demanding the respect of those boundaries, and making sure that, your self-preservation is in a productive way.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting.
No, I appreciate it. And also boundaries with ourselves too. And like knowing, okay, I've maxed out on my people points or my social media dollars, and I just need to step back from that. I will come back to it and, check the news again, but I'm not going to, sit and doom scroll for however long. So it's kind of like having this non-judgmentalness towards yourself as well. Like, it's okay that I'm struggling. It's okay that I don't have the bandwidth for this person anymore. It's okay that I can't do X, Y, or Z. That like noticing and observing and not judging ourselves and honestly to some extent other people too, because I want to just throw so much shade and judgment onto people that I don't agree with. And like Emily's kind of started us off, like it's really not serving us. It's not serving them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Amen. Amen. So respect others, but also respect yourself.
Yeah. And so are you ready to
yeah, I'm ready. I'm sorry. I just wanted to scoot in to tell our people to, advocate for yourself.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's like the time or place, but let's all, if you're listening, just take a breath.
I wish I could through my nose, but I
Well, it's really powerful to just like exude sound, thoughts, energy, even if like maybe the energy doesn't come out in sound. And I'm not gonna, have you do it here, but I do encourage just like, dipping your toes into the water. So loving kindness meditation is you sitting and breathing and being with yourself. And you first give love and kindness to yourself. After you spend a little time doing that, and we can do this in a podcast if anyone's ever interested, you bring love and kindness and give energy to an acquaintance you have. Maybe someone you don't really care too much about. Maybe you just know them. You're not like actually friends. You give that loving kindness to them. And you breathe, you come back, think about that for a moment, kind of like prayer in a way. Then you give love and kindness to your friend. Easy, not hard to do. Think about someone, just really like let that sink in. Maybe it's your partner or your best friend, your mom, whoever. And you just think about one person. You don't just list all the people you love in your head, just a couple minutes, and you think about someone that you love and send them love. This is where it gets really, really hard. And it's not always an option whenever I do meditations with people, but you give love and kindness to someone you don't like. And it's hard. And that's why I'm not like, let's do all this right now, because some people are like, oh, what? You want me to do what? So just like putting that energy out there, even when it's like someone that you just don't like you feel maybe some hatred for them, like giving loving kindness to them might be like a different part of your brain or like a part of yourself. You have to really try or work on that. And that's it. So if you ever want to try, or, maybe you never do, it's just a thought. And that's what I got. Em, you're thinking.
well, the first thing I thought was I'm gonna send some loving kindness to the White House. But like in all seriousness, I think
Yeah.
there's so much more power fueled, to Alyssa's point, so much more power fueled by love and kindness and empathy than there is by hatred and stress.
Mhm.
So, thank you all for joining us today. We really needed this time together with you to talk this through because it's really difficult to just internalize it. And we appreciate you allowing us to have a space to have a verbal journal. And if you need support or you need resources or you have resources that you want to share, please reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you, and we're sending you lots of love.
Sending lots of love. We will share some stuff too. My war cry song is Heat Above by Greta Van Fleet. So good. And what's yours?
Mine is Labor by Paris Paloma. And if you're on TikTok, she's like everywhere on there right now. So you probably know it, even if you think you don't.
Cool. I'm not on TikTok, so maybe I'll have to learn some stuff. But thank you, everyone, for just kind of being with us today. And yeah, we send our love.
Bye.